Hey, Eric.
Hey, Gary, it's Eric from Locales Only. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great.
Great.
Are you ready to roll?
Yeah, hey, I'm right. Coming down your driveway. I'll be in a white Mercedes. I'll see you outside. Hey, welcome to Locales Only. I'm Eric Hale, and if you don't know me, I'm the guy that founded Local Magazine 14 years ago in my garage. It's been my job for all those years to tell you the coolest places to eat in all of Southern California, fun things to do so you have date nights that aren't boring, and we've talked to some really interesting people. Now we have a podcast, and we're lucky enough to call this Mercedes-Benz EQE all-electric sedan, courtesy of Fletcher Jones Motorcars in Newport Beach, our mobile podcast studio. So sit back, buckle up, and enjoy the conversation. Welcome to Locales Only. Today on Locales Only, we're in the Santa Monica Mountains, just above Malibu. And I'm going to be picking up Garry Lineham from Human Garage. They've built a massive following online, showing people how they can take care of their own body with fascia movement. In a slight twist, today, I've spent the last 3 hours in a one-on-one session with Garry, having my fascia realigned. And today, as we drive through the beautiful Santa Monica Mountains, we'll be talking about that session and his plans to grow his community to 100 million. So sit back, buckle up, and enjoy Locales Only. Hey Gary, how are you?
Hey, how you
Good to
doing?
see you.
This is awesome.
All right, so this is our mobile podcast studio.
This is Fletcher Jones.
This is Fletcher Jones in Newport Beach, and
Bought a few cars from them.
have you? That's
Yeah.
good. Well, yeah, they gave us this car to be our mobile podcast studio, which is nice because we can come to the guests.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, we're driving through the beautiful Santa Monica Mountains. We're really perched just above Malibu, PCH, maybe like 8 miles down this canyon. So we're going to be taking it nice and slow today. I'll try to turn the camera around a few times. But today I'm with Garry Lineham, and Gary is with Human Garage. And we're going to find out, sometimes we get into what you do personally, but I think what you're doing for people is really interesting. So tell us maybe what you're trying to do for people with Human Garage.
I think this is actually a good place to start is the thought of doing something personally as opposed to doing something for work.
Right.
We as a team, we don't have a work-life balance. We just have a life. And we're on a mission to help people clear up the clutter and understand that their bodies, inspire people to learn how to heal their own bodies. And
Okay.
I know a lot of people say that are out there trying to do that, but this is something that within minutes somebody can do and feel confident that they can relieve themselves from pain and suffering in their body and then take it to the next step, which is performance. So we live, breathe, work this stuff. We live as a community.
Maybe explain that a little bit more. I think that's interesting. So when sometimes when people say commune, it just takes you right back to the 60s and a certain way of living, and and there's a lot of documentation about that. But a commune is the root word of community, right? So tell me about the we, because you reference the we a lot.
Yeah, I think it's important to reference it because this movement isn't really built around me. Okay. I had an idea on how to heal the human body, and my idea was I could do it myself and I could share it with you.
Okay.
And so this movement is about a bunch of people that are actually sharing this with other people, and it has everything from clinical doctors from all modalities to professional athletes to business people, moms, dads, students. And the we is really anybody. All of our programs are free. Okay. So you can go online, learn.
Wait, let's slow that down, because we're in an age where everybody is trying to sell you a course. Everybody is trying to sell you a membership, and everybody is trying to sell you something. So just slow that down, because I think that's a really important fact that you might just have gotten used to saying. What you're providing for people and what we're going to talk about today is completely free of charge.
100% free. And all the way up to practitioner. And
so even the people you're teaching to teach other people, there's no cost. Like, you don't have to go to a yoga seminar for 7 weeks to get your certification, and
Correct.
It costs X amount of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because at the core of it, it's people learn how to be efficient at this. You have to learn how to help yourself.
Okay.
And if I help myself, I automatically know how to help you.
Okay.
So let's go back to Dr.
So
Heal.
it's like each one teach one. So if you can teach somebody to do it, they can teach another person or more people, right?
Correct.
Okay.
The premise is that this is something that impacted me so profoundly. After 35 years of being in pain, 20 years being in pain, spending millions of dollars going to doctors and practitioners and biohacking, and then 10 years becoming a practitioner with 52 of the best physicians and practitioners in the world collaborating on an experience trying to understand the body in a new way.
And this was in Venice Beach, California, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And we were just looking to understand the body in a new way because from an overall perspective, people are not doing well in society today. There's not one measure of human life that's better today than it was 50 years ago. We are dying sooner. We have every disease and pathology where we had 1 or 10 of them. We had a small percentage of the audience had cancers like 50, 70 years ago.
Right.
Today, it's like 1 in 4 women who have breast cancer.
Okay.
So every measure of mental, emotional, physical, societal health is demonstratively at its worst. And in order for people to receive help, it has to be something that everybody can access without any barriers. And we're turning this up, but this is all to reach people. And then when we reach them, we want to inspire them to try something to help themselves.
This is more than you're trying to affect your local community like it was in Venice Beach. You saw an opportunity using social media, the digital age, and the fact that there's no cost to prohibit its growth. You really want to see the whole world take advantage of this in every kind of community. Is there language barriers? I know you mentioned all these different places. Financially, there might not be barriers, but there's 1,000 different languages in the world spoken. So how do you get through that?
Well, we're already in 20 languages and basics, but we've been working with AI technology now to convert it because there's an energetic component that goes to a video that that when you're shooting, there's just some that are magic.
Right.
And so when we did our 15-minute stress reset, which I encourage everybody to go check out.
And that they can do that on your app, on the Human Garage app,
or
right?
they don't
or
even
on the website.
Or they can go to YouTube, or they can go to social media.
Just look up Human Garage and the 15-minute reset.
15-minute stress reset.
Okay, perfect. So let's get into it a little bit. We've talked I think we're talking in big generalities and vague. So let's drill down a little bit. Human Garage, I think it speaks for itself. It's something to fix something, right? Fix the human body. But what specifically are we fixing? What are we working on?
Well, first and foremost, we're working on the entire body as a whole.
Okay.
And being a practitioner of multidisciplines, I can tell you that each discipline works on the body to a certain degree and then leaves out something.
So we're talking chiropractic, we're talking massage, we're talking
Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine,
all different things
yoga,
leave out something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they all have a benefit and a value. Otherwise, they wouldn't be successful.
Right.
But they all have something that's lacking. Otherwise, people wouldn't need anything else.
Okay.
So in that space where there's things that work in the world and they all are great, and there's all these, and there's a point at which they stop working.
Okay.
And you can tell this because we have some of the top clinicians from every discipline who now come to us, and we help them understand the body from our point of view.
Okay.
Now, we're working around fascia, and fascia is the container that we live in. And people have heard of it, but even the description of a fascia, I was telling you earlier when we were doing the treatment today.
And full disclaimer, everyone, this is a little bit different episode. I think we should mention that. We have a follow-up video coming to this podcast, which I think everybody will enjoy, where Garry actually puts me through a full session, both a session that I can do and a session that he assisted on, and pretty incredible. So tune in after this, because I'm actually the face that you see and maybe the little bit of extra height that I got. This is post treatment. 1 hour, but you gained a solid inch in that hour. Hey, I'm all for it. So tune in after this episode. I think it's really important to note that normally I'm just picking up my guest and we're driving around, but this time we've had some interaction before. So you did explain to me about the fascia. So maybe go on from there. My apologies for interrupting.
Yeah, that's okay. We have a lot of science around the body, but that science is usually telling you what's inside the body and how it works. Your muscle skeletal system, your lymphatic system, your hormonal systems, all of these functions of the body. And then we have the emotional side, psychiatry. and we're looking at all these different angles of the body, but one thing that they traditionally have lacked is the container that we're in, which is fascia.
Okay.
And
So maybe explain that a little bit more, because maybe not everybody is up to speed on that. We did learn in school, skeletal, muscular. You learn all those things. What exact is fascia? Like some sort of like?
it's the intelligence of the body. It is us.
Okay.
And we can't
Oh.
separate. You can cut everything out of the body.
Mm-hmm.
Every organ, every nerve, every gland, you can cut out. You can cut the brain out, everything. But you can't extract fascia.
Because it's just connected throughout your whole body.
It is. You're actually born into fascia. When you're born, there's literally a ball of plasma, and then there's two clusters that grow inside that ball of plasma. One becomes the brain, and one becomes the small intestine. And nobody can tell you which is which until about 6 weeks. And then the muscle skeletal system starts to grow. Now, that ball of plasma is fascia. So your bones, your muscles, your tissues, your brain, everything is made in fascia.
So it's what encapsulates it. It holds everything together. So
You're
it's
made
kind of like
of
your
it.
suit. It's your suit.
More than your suit. You're made of it. Your muscles are made of fascia.
Your muscles are made of fascia.
They have to be, because you're made.
Is this like this thing where
grown.
everything's a card from that one movie where they're like, is everything a fascia? So
Technically, yes.
Sorry, this is why I have to slow down, just because I want to make sure that the people listening understand your understanding.
If your muscles are grown in the construct of fascia, then and your bones are grown in there, then they are made from it.
Everything's made out of fascia.
Yeah, and so for what fascia, I mean, basically, if you look at the body, it's 70% water, or it's supposed to be.
Right.
They're now teaching 60%.
Okay.
Which is a problem.
Okay.
Which is part of the reason why we're talking.
Where'd the 10% go?
Dehydration, which is causing all the disease processes.
Okay.
And we're 25% silica, which is sand.
Okay. First time I've ever heard that. I didn't.
And then we
know
have
that.
all these bacterias and viruses and parasites that make up
lots
the
of
rest.
bugs, right?
Yeah, lots of bugs. I mean, technically, only 10% of our cells are human cells. 90% of them are bacterial.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess. Well, yeah. I could see how that would make sense. And just by the way, as I keep making these wow faces, just realize that the last time I had any type of science was probably 35 years ago. So I might have known this at some point, but it's escaped me.
Guaranteed you didn't know this, and because we didn't know this, and these are things that we're learning in science right now. Like, think about your body as the way it performs in the environment. So things like testosterone, estrogen, estradiol, those things draw power. So emotions are what drive a lot of this, and those emotions. That's why when you have an emotional event, you feel tired and hungry. So it's rethinking about how the body, like, we went on a fast as a team. We fasted for 44 days because we wanted to prove, and 2 weeks without water, that food wasn't a fuel.
So you beat Jesus by 4 days.
apparently we wanted to do four more days. But it was an interesting experiment, because what I did was I spent 30 years trying to figure this out, and then 10 years in clinical practice.
Right.
And then stepping outside, the pandemic gave me the time to run all these experiments on me.
Okay.
And so that's what we did. I didn't have anybody to see.
So one of the experiments was like this fasting for 44 days. What did you find that
Well, first of all,
was there benefits?
I slept 2 to 3 hours a day.
That's all. You needed less sleep?
Yeah, I didn't.
Was that because you were hungry and you were going to the fridge?
No. Urinating. Going to the fridge is interesting, because we went to the fridge every day. A habit.
Yeah, right.
Even
Just to kind of peruse, see what's there.
Bizarre experience, but it taught us a lot of things about how the body works and how power works and how our systems work. First of all,
was it a water fast, or did you leave water into it?
Well, no, we had water, but
Okay.
we went 2 weeks without water.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
So no food and no water for 2 weeks?
Correct.
Wow. And you weren't emaciated? You didn't feel...
No, I'll show you pictures at the end of it. I was fat.
Wow. Where are we at in the evolution of new movements coming out? Do we have all the movements now?
No.
Or is this thing going to continue to evolve, and we're going to see 2.0, 3.0, etc.?
But this is a great question, because everybody's body's different based upon circumstances. So there is no movement practice or therapy in the world that works for everybody.
Right.
So this is a movement philosophy, and once you learn it, then you can apply it to anything. The reason I know how to help everybody through every situation is because I go, how would I do that on my body?
Right. This is how I pictured it, right? Maybe this is the genesis. A lot of times I have a pain in my hip, right? and I know, enough to know traditionally it's probably not coming from right there. I kind of feel something else that's off.
Yeah.
And I lay there and I torque and I twist.
Yeah.
And I push with my fingers and I do this and I do that. And then one day I go, hey, that worked.
Well,
Right.
that's
so is
you.
that the genesis?
That is everything.
Right. Is that the genesis of how you got there? Was you just kept
Yeah.
sticking your fingers in different places
Yeah.
till you realize like,
Yeah.
whoa, that actually helped, right?
Yeah. Basically, I've stuck my fingers everywhere, and so a lot of it when we were experimenting with the maneuvers,
Literally, we're saying literally. So.
because we had this thing that worked, this
Yeah.
philosophy of moving the body and the fascia that
Right.
worked, but then we had to put it into simple terms that people could reproduce.
Okay.
Those are the maneuvers. So there's 10
Right.
maneuvers, and it's a language that helps the body express itself emotionally. Technically, is what it is. And then as you express yourself through these 10 essential maneuvers, you can create variations that are unique and specific to yourself. So it's like teaching somebody to dance. You teach them to dance in the boxes or paint in
Right.
the squares, and then after a while they learn to move outside of them.
So something I would like to address, and we did this in our session. So if you didn't hear earlier, we also filmed a bonus episode where you can see a lot of the maneuvers and things that I'm doing. And you'll have to forgive me for this. Some of the things that you mentioned to me are what I might characterize on daily life as people would say a little woo-woo, right?
Fair statement.
We're
Woo up the hell.
My sign to, in some of the things as we went through some of these movements, there were statements of release, statements of allowing myself forgiveness, maybe things that you might say in a yoga practice, maybe things you might say in a meditation, but it felt a little woo. Now, I didn't take anything negatively from it, and I'm not closed-minded, but does that limit the reach of something that might be good for them physically when you bring in the spiritual?
Well, I look at everybody, you can do the physical practice and not say a word, and it still
Right.
works.
Okay.
Okay, but
Was it practice to find that these things helped?
Yeah, they do, and
Okay.
and there's measurable, demonstratable, and
Okay.
anybody who helps somebody can see it.
Yeah.
It's not a question.
Okay.
Now, think about things that you say to yourself every day. I'm not good enough at that. I'm not worthy of that.
Mostly
I'm
it's
scared of
negative self-talk.
Right.
It's mostly negative.
So all we're doing is asking, woo-woo part is say something positive and programming to yourself, because the way that the human fluid adaptive biological computing system works is it uses inputs to learn and adapt to the environment.
Right.
And it does it through averages. So I keep saying to myself, I'm not good enough and I can't do it.
It'll believe it.
Yeah. And so basically what we're doing is the body is in a highly adaptive state, like when you're in a fascial maneuver.
Right.
And that state is actually a fetal position.
Yeah, I did feel very vulnerable in that position.
So
So at your most vulnerable, you're saying.
You then use a word which is at the core of your programming language as a human being.
Right.
So basically, my background is cryptology,
Okay.
programming systems.
Okay.
So I think of the body as a computer.
Mm-hmm.
And it has inputs and outputs. It has a display screen. It has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, ways of bringing in information,
Mm-hmm.
ways of displaying it, processing it. It has a processor like your brain. It has hard drive like your fascia. And so it has language, and the language that we use programs us, but we only, supposedly use it for like Olympic athletes or success programming. But
Right.
but if it works for that, it works for everything.
Yeah,
So
I see that, because like if you're lifting weights and you're like, I can do this, I'm gonna go lift this weights, I'm the best weightlifter. You go over there and for some reason there is extra energy and power. But it's you know what? I think sometimes it's easier for us to put anything that makes us feel vulnerable into a woo-woo category, because
Okay.
then we can dismiss it easier,
So
right?
here's the thing. Human beings, when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of changing, they will change. And you can do the fascial maneuvers and you can not use any programming language, and it's going to work for you fantastic. And you'll get to a point, which people do, that they go, I want more.
Right.
And when you want more, they go, why am I not getting more? Why don't I get what they got over there?
Right.
And so you can start, we're agnostic to discipline, religion, language, nationality, sex. We're agnostic to any of them. You can be all of them.
Right.
And you can take this at the pieces that you want. This is about moving your body.
Mm-hmm.
And if we moved our bodies in nature like we used to, we wouldn't need any of this.
If people like what they're hearing, if they'd like to feel better, if they'd like to do some basic movements to improve their health, where should they start? What's the first thing they should do?
I think it's important that people have a very low entry point where there's no commitment. So you can go to our website and you can try a 15-minute stress reset, or you can try an upper reset or a lower reset.
Okay.
The upper reset's for basically anything in the upper body up to brain function.
Okay.
And the lower reset is everything lower body and digestion, with each of them having a full body approach, which you did this today.
Right.
And then a specialization. They can do that, or the 15-minute stress reset, which is the lowest entry point.
Okay.
And then try that and do that once a day for 3 days or 7 days. Set yourself a time frame.
So just do it every morning or every evening, 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
For 7 days.
Yeah. And then measure yourself before and after. Like, take photographs.
Okay.
Like we did with you. Take a photograph before and take a photograph after, and then measure yourself. Like literally write down what bothers you in your life, what your thoughts are. To try this exercise to do this.
Okay.
And any aches and pains that you have, write them down, because if they change, you may not even realize they change until afterwards.
Okay.
And take a picture of yourself, take a picture of your face, take a picture of the way that you stand on the side, and then do it for 7 days and then measure yourself. I mean, that's the best way to do it. Now, if you don't want to go through all that, just turn it on and do it for 15 minutes a day for 7 days, and you're going to feel differently as a result of doing that.
Well, I can validate that. I can say that it is movements that I don't think I've ever done specifically. I do know that I felt a level of energy and calm and definitely heat. And I felt that in our session today.
And everybody in the room felt your heat. And
even our camera turned off for being overheated. But, I just had this instant flushing of my whole body. And I wasn't doing jumping jacks. I wasn't doing push-ups. I hadn't been for a run. But there was just, my skin color was flush. I was sweating, and I'm not a sweater. I literally never sweat. So it was an unusual phenomenon, the amount of heat that I was generating, almost from even the moves that I could do on my own, but then even more so, obviously, when you were doing more
actually,
stuff.
the heat came from you doing Totally Twisted, which was you were doing it on your own. I just literally
give me a little twist.
A
little twist.
And basically assisting you, what that does is it takes something that would take you 3 to 6 months, and it does it in 15 minutes.
So first step, go to the website. You can do anything from a 15-minute quick session, see how you feel, see how you like it, to you can do it 3 days or 7 days, and all those are free.
Yeah.
And then if you're like, hey, I like how this makes me feel, that you can engage with the community on that app, I'm sure, and then you could maybe even find somebody to help you take it to other levels. You have community there, because all these people are watching. There's a lot of people talking.
Yeah, there's a 1 day, 3 day, 7 day, and a 28-day reset. Now, those are the basic tools.
Okay.
And then if you want to learn more, you start into the Lifestyle Artist Program. There's level 1, and these are all about you, your environment, how it works.
Okay.
And then level 2 is how can you actually, most people that go level 2, lifestyle artists, are saying they're practitioners or they're coaches. They're saying, how do I help this, or how do I use this in my world? And from there, what we ask is, because we give up all this for free, is our ask for you is to take care of yourself and share it with somebody else. That's our only ask. We help people who want to take the maneuvers and implement them into whatever you want to. We have orthopedic surgeons that are implementing it pre and post surgery. We have trauma coaches doing it. We have naturopathic doctors. We have trainers and athletes and functional medicine doctors using it. And if you want to create a system with it, do it. Let us know and we'll help you.
So I think this is something that people might be interested in, right? Because everybody always goes, what's the angle? Right? What's in it for you? Because people are going to say, are you trying to be the next Jim and Tammy Faye and have jets and fly around the world? What's the value in it for you? What are you trying to accomplish?
We have no money. I don't have a bank account.
Okay.
None of us have bank accounts except for Jason right now, because of the business accounts, but that we're passing that on. We're moving to a foundation.
Okay.
This is our life. This is a life that we live, and we believe that the world's transitioning. And we believe that we're moving back into community. And this is the way that humans used to live and work.
And I think that's great that you that you say that, because a lot of people might want to hide that. That's fantastic.
Oh,
You
no,
say,
no.
like, hey, if you want to know about
My
me,
whole
it's out
history
there.
is public, and
Yeah.
everything that every conversation we've ever had since 2020 has been recorded. And as you go through our program, we give access to everything, including arguments and business discussions, including financial discussions. We're making it all public because we're taking away this veil of privacy, which is where things hide. And when you take away where things hide, then healing actually happens. Because at the core of every disease is something I don't want somebody to know.
Yeah.
That I'm ashamed of.
Right.
And this is the fundamental control point that disease has had over the world. And if we remove privacy at the center of it, then, and we shine a light on it, then things that I don't want people to know, like I have cancer, or I have AIDS, or I have herpes. These are things that have been kept quiet. And even in our clinical practice, we did not use diagnosis, and we made we have open floor. And if you didn't like it, go somewhere else.
Right.
And as we remove disease and the shame and the guilt of feeling a certain way in our body, the body tends to heal. And that's how we live our life.
Thank everyone for listening. Thank you to Garry Lineham for being with us today. Great conversation. If you want to learn more about it, you can go to Human Garage. They have an app, they have a website. You can check that out there. I want to thank everyone on the Straw Hut Media team, including executive producer Ryan Tillotson and our editor and producer Parker J. Hicks. And as always, a big thank you to Fletcher Jones Motor Cars in Newport Beach for providing this beautiful Mercedes-Benz EQE to be our rolling podcast studio. Join us next time on Locales Only, where you can buckle up and go for a ride in our mobile podcast studio with some of the coolest people in Southern California.